My name is Emily. I'm 32 years old, and if you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you my life was ordinary. Comfortably boring, even. I had a steady job, a house with a little backyard, and a husband I believed was my partner in everything. I had parents who lived an hour away, and a younger sister, Barbara, who filled every room with noise, drama, and that restless energy of someone who always believed the world owed her something. She was 28, divorced, and raising a little girl, my niece, who was only 5 and already sharp as a whip. I adored her. She was the kind of child who could make you forget your troubles just by tugging on your sleeve and asking you to play. On the surface, it all looked like family life as usual, but under the skin, there was a raw wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. For 8 years, my marriage had revolved around one silent, consuming hope: children. Every month, I'd wait with shaking hands for that test strip to show me a miracle. Every month, it failed me. We tried everything: doctors, hormone treatments, charts, surgeries, injections. Our bedroom became less about love and more about scheduling, counting days, following instructions. The romance died under fluorescent clinic lights. I still remember one night, me in the bathroom at 2 in the morning, muffling my sobs in a towel so he wouldn't hear, staring at the single blue line on the stick. That line felt like a sentence. My husband knocked on the door and asked flatly, "Another negative?" No hug, no comfort, just the sound of disappointment wrapped in apathy. He said the right words for a while. "We'll figure this out together. Don't give up." But there were little cracks, snide remarks when he thought I wasn't listening. A joke to friends about how I mothered the dog like it was a baby. Comments about how maybe my body just wasn't built for this. Every word landed like a blade. I told myself marriage meant weathering storms, that loyalty meant swallowing pain. But loyalty only works when both people are rowing the same boat. I didn't know that while I was clutching negative pregnancy tests, he was building entire families with other women. Not one, two. I discovered it by accident 4 months ago. A phone buzzing on the nightstand, a message preview glowing in the dark. "The kids miss you tonight. Are you coming by?" My blood turned to ice. At first, I thought it was some mistake, a spam text, a wrong number. But when I scrolled, I saw the whole sordid picture: 2 different women, 2 different homes, children he had fathered. My husband, the man who had sat with me through endless fertility treatments, had children elsewhere. He hadn't just betrayed me, he had replaced me. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. He shrugged, almost relieved. "I needed kids, Emily. I wasn't going to waste my whole life waiting on you. You couldn't give me what I needed." His words scorched themselves into me, as if infertility were a choice, as if my worth as a woman, as a partner, began and ended with my womb. The divorce was brutal. Lawyers circling like vultures, paperwork that reduced 8 years of shared life into lists of possessions to be divided. He fought me for the house, for the car, for things he never even cared about, just so I would have less. And when it was done, when the ink dried, I was left with half of what I owned and none of what I believed in. I thought I was broken. My reflection looked like a ghost of someone who used to laugh too loudly at sitcoms, who used to plan children's names on the back of grocery lists. That version of me was gone. Barbara wasn't much comfort either. She had always been the golden one in our parents' eyes, the younger daughter, the one who gave them a grandchild, even if her marriage had ended in shambles. She would sometimes throw little digs my way, disguised as jokes. "You wouldn't understand, Emily. Being a mom changes everything." Or, "You're so lucky you don't have to deal with tantrums at bedtime." She never realized, or maybe she did, that each word twisted the knife a little deeper. My parents tried to console me, but even their comfort had weight. "These things happen, sweetheart," my mother said. "Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. At least Barbara gave us a granddaughter, so we still have joy in the family. At least Barbara." As if my value was measured against her. So when my parents called a month ago and suggested a family trip to Hawaii, I clung to the idea like a lifeline. "You need to get away from all this darkness," my mother said. "You need healing, Emily. Sunshine, family, a fresh start." The thought of warm beaches, of my niece's laughter in the sand, of escaping the walls of my lonely apartment, it felt like breathing after months underwater. For the first time since the divorce, I felt something close to excitement. I bought new swimsuits, dresses I hadn't dared wear in years, even treated myself to a pedicure. My niece squealed with delight when Barbara told her about the trip, her first plane ride, her first ocean. She talked about sea turtles and pineapples, about hula dancers and flower necklaces. Her joy was contagious. But even in my excitement, there was a whisper of unease I couldn't shake. Maybe it was the way Barbara smirked when she said, "It'll be interesting to see how you handle traveling with a child." Maybe it was the way my father looked at me, like he pitied me, like I was the fragile one tagging along. Maybe it was just the heaviness of everything unsaid between us. Still, I told myself not to overthink. This was my chance to start again. The morning of our flight, I wheeled my bright pink suitcase through the airport doors, trying to let the bustle of travelers drown out the echo of my failed marriage. I spotted my parents by the gate, Barbara standing with my niece, her little hands clutching a tiny pink purse. She saw me, shouted, "Aunt Emily!" and ran into my arms. I hugged her tight, breathing in the smell of baby shampoo, and asked, "Are you ready for Hawaii, sweetheart?" She giggled. "Mommy says there are turtles bigger than me." Barbara gave me a quick hug, then with her usual impatience said, "Perfect timing. Can you grab her a bottle of water? She's been asking, and the line at that food court looks shorter." I glanced at the crowd, at the line that seemed reasonable from here. "Sure," I said. I didn't know it then, but that simple request, the kind you do without thinking for family, was the crack that would split everything open. The line at the food court stretched farther than it looked from a distance. I joined the slow shuffle forward, the scent of greasy burgers and burnt coffee clinging to the air. Overhead, the constant echo of announcements rattled my nerves. Flight 324 boarding, Gate 17 delayed. Every voice from the speakers made me glance at the time. We still had 45 minutes. Enough, I told myself. I tried to focus on the task, just a bottle of water for my niece, but as I stood there, my phone buzzed with an email from work, and for a moment I was back in my old life, where small distractions piled on top of larger heartbreaks. By the time I looked up, the line had hardly moved. Families argued about sandwiches, kids cried for fries, a cashier moved slower than molasses. That's when I heard it, a familiar voice behind me. "Emily, oh my God, is that you?" I turned. Jessica, my college roommate. We hadn't spoken in over a year, maybe longer. She looked almost the same. Bright smile, quick laugh, the kind of woman who always carried chaos in her purse. She told me she was flying to Denver for business. I explained I was headed to Hawaii with my family. We hugged, and suddenly I was spilling my guts in the middle of the airport line. About the divorce, about the years of infertility and betrayal. Jessica listened with that sympathetic tilt of her head, touching my arm. "You didn't deserve that, Emily. You'll find something better. You'll find yourself again." I hadn't realized how badly I needed someone to say those words. We talked for nearly 20 minutes, trading updates and memories, until I finally glanced at my phone and saw the time. Nearly half an hour gone. My stomach dropped. "I have to go. My family's waiting," I said, grabbing the bottle of water and rushing away. The crowd near our gate had thinned. I expected to see my parents with their carry-ons, Barbara adjusting her daughter's dress, my niece waving at me. But the seats were empty, too empty. My eyes scanned frantically, heart hammering. Then I saw her. Standing in the middle of the waiting area, clutching her little pink purse with both hands, was my niece, alone. I sprinted across the gate, nearly dropping the water bottle. "Sweetheart!" I dropped to my knees in front of her. Her eyes were wide, wet with unshed tears. "Aunt Emily," she whispered, "they went on the airplane." I froze. "What do you mean? Where's Mommy? Where's Grandma and Grandpa?" She lifted her purse and pulled out a folded note. "Mommy said to give you this." I opened it with shaking hands. My sister's handwriting. "Emily, you're always talking about wanting a child. Here's your chance to spend some quality time with one. We changed our flight to leave earlier. Don't worry, we'll have a peaceful vacation. Take good care of her. Barbara." My blood went cold. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might be sick right there on the airport floor. I looked at the departure board. The flight to Hawaii had left 15 minutes ago. They were gone. They had left me with her child, her 5-year-old daughter, like she was an unwanted carry-on. "Sweetie," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady, "how long have you been waiting?" Her lip trembled. "I don't know. A long time. People kept walking by. One lady asked me if I was lost. Mommy said you'd come." Tears burned in my eyes. For 30 minutes, she had been alone in a crowded airport. Anyone could have taken her, led her away. The thought made me dizzy. I pulled her against me. You did nothing wrong, honey. Nothing. Mommy made a mistake. I'm here now. She sniffled, tucking her face against my neck. Did Mommy leave because I was bad? No, I whispered fiercely. You are not bad. You are perfect. I texted Barbara. What the hell is wrong with you? You abandoned your daughter at an airport. No response. I texted my parents. Did you know about this? How could you go along with it? Silence. Their phones must have been switched off, or worse, they simply didn't care. I felt eyes on us, from strangers passing by, curiosity mixed with judgment. To them, maybe I was just another frazzled mom. They couldn't see the earthquake inside me. I grabbed my suitcase, clutched my niece's tiny hand, and walked out of the terminal. Each step felt heavier than the last. Back at my apartment, I tried to create normalcy. Mac and cheese for dinner, cartoons on the TV. She curled into the couch cushions, laughing at animated animals while I sat beside her, pretending everything was fine. But her questions cut through me. When is Mommy coming back? I swallowed hard. I don't know, sweetheart. She went on vacation with Grandma and Grandpa. Her brow furrowed. But why didn't I go? Did I do something bad? I thought my heart would break. How do you explain to a child that her mother chose margaritas over her? That her grandmother and grandfather boarded a plane without looking back? You didn't do anything wrong, I said softly. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Later, after I tucked her into the spare room with a stuffed bunny, I sat alone in my kitchen. Rage simmered under my skin. Barbara had crossed a line I didn't know existed. And my parents, my own parents, had been complicit. Then another thought struck me. Mark, my sister's ex-husband. The man she always painted as irresponsible, a liar, a cheater. He was the villain in every story she told. But tonight, staring at my niece's sleeping face, I wondered, what if Barbara's stories weren't true? What if Mark wasn't the monster she described, but simply the casualty of her chaos? I pulled out my phone and searched his number. My hand trembled as I pressed call. Emily, his voice was wary. Mark, Barbara just abandoned your daughter at the airport. She flew to Hawaii with my parents. She left her alone. My voice cracked. If you want to see her, come over. Now. There was a pause, then urgency in his voice. I'll be there right away. As I hung up, I stared at the quiet apartment, at the child breathing softly in the next room. My sister thought this was some twisted gift, a chance to be a mother. But what she had really done was open a door I could never close again. And once Mark stepped through that door, the truth about Barbara, about all of us, would begin to unravel. 2 hours later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Mark stood there, holding a doll bigger than my niece's torso. His face looked pale, drawn, but his eyes softened the moment she ran toward him. Daddy! Her squeal echoed through the apartment. She leapt into his arms, her tiny legs wrapping around his waist like she never wanted to let go. He pressed his face into her hair, shoulders trembling. Princess, I missed you so much. For a long moment, I just stood in the doorway watching the reunion. If Barbara had been here, she would have spun this into one of her endless dramas, how Mark only played the doting father when it was convenient. But what I saw wasn't performance. It was raw, messy love. He kissed his daughter's cheeks over and over while tears streamed down his face. She giggled, wiping them away with her little hands. Don't cry, Daddy. I'm okay. Aunt Emily took care of me. I cleared my throat. Come inside. We sat at the kitchen table while my niece played with her new doll on the rug. Mark looked at me with eyes that carried years of exhaustion. Barbara left her at the airport, he asked slowly, as if saying it out loud would help him believe it. I nodded. 30 minutes, alone, crowded terminal. Anything could have happened. He swore under his breath, then dropped his head into his hands. For a while, he just sat there, shaking his head like he was trying to rattle loose the nightmare. Finally, he said, You need to know the truth about your sister. My stomach tightened. All those years she told you I was a liar, a cheater, a deadbeat, none of it was true. She was the one. She was cheating on me. Not once, not twice, with multiple men. I blinked, stunned. She told us, you walked out on her, that you didn't want responsibility. His laugh was sharp, humorless. That's what she wanted you to believe. I hired a private investigator when things stopped adding up. Nights she said she was with friends, trips to the gym that lasted 4 hours. Unexplained hotel receipts. The investigator gave me photos, videos, text logs. He pulled out his phone and scrolled. My eyes widened at the images. Barbara holding hands with a man outside a bar, Barbara entering a hotel with another, Barbara in a car kissing someone who wasn't her husband. Her smile was the same one she flashed at family dinners when she acted like everything was perfect. I even got a DNA test, Mark continued. His voice cracked. To make sure my daughter was really mine. She is, thank God. But do you know what it feels like to look at your baby and wonder if she belongs to you? I swallowed hard, remembering all the times Barbara cried in our parents' living room, telling them how Mark had broken her heart, how she was the strong one raising their granddaughter alone. My parents had eaten it up, praising her resilience, condemning Mark. You never told us, I whispered. He shrugged, but it was the saddest gesture I'd ever seen. I thought I was protecting my daughter. I didn't want her to grow up knowing her mother was sleeping around. I didn't want to humiliate her, or myself, so I stayed quiet and let Barbara control the narrative. You let her paint you as the villain. Yes. He looked me in the eye. But I see now, staying silent was a mistake. Because while I was protecting her image, she was destroying our daughter's life. We sat in silence, the weight of his words pressing down on both of us. In the living room, my niece hummed to herself, brushing the doll's hair with tiny strokes, oblivious to the storm circling around her. I asked softly, why didn't you fight harder in court back then? He exhaled, because Barbara threatened me. She said if I made things ugly, she'd make sure our daughter forgot me, that she'd poison her against me, erase me from her life, and I believed her. Barbara's capable of it. You know she is. I thought of the note she'd left at the airport. Here's your chance to spend quality time with a child. It was cruel, twisted, the kind of thing only someone who wanted control could write. Mark's voice broke my thoughts. I can't let this go on, Emily. Not anymore. She left our child alone in an airport. That's not just neglect, that's abandonment. I stared at him, torn. This was my sister we were talking about, flesh and blood. But when I pictured my niece standing there, clutching her purse with frightened eyes, I knew he was right. What do we do? I asked. His gaze hardened. We fight. For custody. For her safety. I already have a lawyer. I'll call him first thing Monday. We'll get the airport footage, file the papers. But I need your help, your testimony. The words felt heavy, dangerous. If I helped him, I wouldn't just be turning on Barbara. I'd be declaring war on my parents, too. They would see this as betrayal. Blood against blood. But then my niece looked up from the rug and held out her doll. Aunt Emily, look, her hair is all messy. Can you help me fix it? Something cracked open inside me. That little girl deserved safety, stability, love. If Barbara couldn't provide it, then someone had to step in. I met Mark's eyes. I'll help you, whatever it takes. He nodded, relief washing over his face, but underneath it I caught something else. Fear. Not of losing the fight, but of how far Barbara might go when she realized we were taking her daughter away. That night, after Mark left, I tucked my niece into bed again. She clutched the doll against her chest and whispered, Is Mommy coming back tomorrow? I stroked her hair. Not tomorrow, sweetheart, but Daddy's here now, and I'm here. You're safe. Her eyelids drooped, but before sleep claimed her, she added something that sent a chill through me. Sometimes Mommy gets really mad. She says if I love Daddy more, she'll go away forever. I froze, my hand still on her head. She was only 5 and already carrying the weight of threats no child should hear. I whispered, more to myself than to her, not anymore. You don't have to be afraid anymore. But deep down, I knew the storm was only just beginning. By Monday morning, Mark's lawyer was already moving. He filed a petition for emergency custody, citing child abandonment at the airport. He requested airport security footage, tapped into months of documentation Mark had been quietly compiling. Suddenly, our quiet little conspiracy became a legal campaign. Mark came over that evening with stacks of papers, screenshots, credit card statements, even private investigator reports. He spread them out on my kitchen table like evidence boards in a crime drama. I looked at the mess, receipts, timestamps, photos, and realized just how deep Barbara's spiral had gone. The investigators' videos were the worst. Grainy nighttime footage, shaky zoom-ins. There she was, my sister, stumbling out of bars, laughing too loudly, tripping over her heels. In one clip, she dropped her keys 3 times before managing to unlock her car. At first, I wanted to look away, until the camera zoomed in on the back seat. My niece, asleep in her booster chair, head lolling against the window. I clapped a hand over my mouth. She drove home like that? Drunk, Mark said grimly. 4 separate times we caught her doing it, each time with our daughter in the car. I shook my head, bile rising in my throat. Why didn't you call the police? Because one incident can be explained away. A pattern can't. I wanted proof that couldn't be dismissed. His jaw tightened. Barbara is reckless, and she thinks no one will hold her accountable. He showed me Barbara's Instagram next. Dozens of posts of cocktails, champagne flutes, neon-lit nights out, caption after caption dripping with smug joy. Another girls' night. Mom life equals me time. The timestamps told the story. 1:45 a.m. on a Tuesday, 3:10 a.m. on a Friday. Meanwhile, I remembered my niece's two small shoes, the hole in her leggings. She spent $3,000 on clothes last month, Mark said, pushing forward a credit card statement. $1,500 on salons, $1,000 at bars, and $8,000. He slid another receipt across. For breast implants, 2 weeks after I sent her child support. I stared at the paper. My chest ached with rage. While her daughter wore outgrown sneakers, Barbara had been sculpting herself for strangers. And our parents, I whispered. They defended her all these years. Mark's eyes darkened. Because she played the victim so well. She told them what they wanted to hear. Meanwhile, I kept quiet because I didn't want to humiliate her, or myself. I wanted to slam my fists on the table, to scream into the walls, but instead I listened as he continued laying out the evidence, because as horrifying as it was, this was the truth we needed. Later that week, Child Protective Services sent a caseworker named Mrs. Patterson to my apartment. She was a middle-aged woman with calm eyes and a notebook she never put down. She sat across from me and asked questions in a voice so soft it felt disarming. How has your niece been adjusting? Better than I expected, I admitted. She sleeps through the night now. She eats well. She plays like a normal kid. Does she ask for her mother? Less and less. The first few days it was constant. Now maybe once a day. She seems more relaxed here, safer. Mrs. Patterson nodded, jotting notes. Then she spent half an hour with my niece, asking gentle questions. Later, after the woman left, my niece came to me and whispered. She asked if I was scared at the airport. I told her yes, but I'm not scared anymore because you and Daddy take care of me. Her words nearly broke me. I kissed her forehead and tucked her into my arms, silently promising I would never let her feel that fear again. But the danger wasn't just Barbara anymore, it was my parents. That Friday night, my phone rang. My mother's voice, sharp as broken glass, cut through the line. Emily, what are you doing? You're tearing this family apart. I swallowed. Mom, Barbara left her 5-year-old alone in a public airport. That's child endangerment. She could have been taken. She could have been hurt. You're exaggerating. Barbara knew you'd be back. She trusted you. She left her for half an hour, alone. You always twist things. Family comes first. You don't betray your sister like this. I laughed bitterly, though it wasn't funny. She betrayed her own daughter, Mom. She put her in danger. How can you defend that? But my mother wouldn't bend. She kept repeating the same phrase. Family comes first, until I finally hung up. My father texted after. If you go through with this, don't bother coming home anymore. I stared at the words until my vision blurred. My parents had chosen Barbara. Not the child, not me. By Sunday, Mark's lawyer called with an update. His voice hummed with satisfaction. We got the airport footage. It's exactly what we needed. The video shows Barbara and your parents walking through security, boarding the plane, while the child is left behind at the gate. She's alone for 28 minutes. You arrive, and the footage clearly shows your panic. I closed my eyes, picturing it. Barbara striding ahead without a glance backward, my parents following, my niece left behind, clutching her purse, and then me, running toward her, dropping to my knees. Other passengers even noticed, the lawyer continued. One woman approached the child, concerned. That detail will play well in court. Judges take abandonment very seriously. That night, I sat at the edge of my niece's bed as she slept. The soft rise and fall of her chest, the way she clutched her doll against her cheek made her look impossibly small. I whispered into the darkness, You'll never be alone again. I don't care what it costs me. I won't let them hurt you. Mark and I began to work like partners in a mission. Each day we gathered more evidence, reviewed strategies, planned next steps. And with each late-night conversation, I began to see the truth. This wasn't just about winning custody. It was about saving a child from a mother who saw her as a prop. But a shadow lurked in the back of my mind. Barbara had never been one to accept defeat quietly. When she came back from Hawaii, sunburned and smiling, expecting to pick up where she left off, What would happen when she discovered her whole world was about to collapse? The thought chilled me, because if I knew one thing about my sister, it was this. When Barbara felt cornered, she lashed out, and this time she'd see me as the one holding the knife. Barbara came back from Hawaii glowing with a tan and a smug grin. She knocked on my door at exactly 7:30 p.m., suitcase rolling behind her. For a split second, I thought maybe she would hug her daughter, apologize, pretend none of it had happened. But when I opened the door, the smile slid off her face. Mark was standing behind me, arms crossed. Beside him was Mrs. Patterson from Child Protective Services, clipboard in hand. Barbara froze. What the hell is he doing here? Mrs. Patterson stepped forward calmly. Ms. Barbara, I'm here on behalf of Child Protective Services. Custody proceedings have begun regarding your daughter. The tan drained from Barbara's face. Custody proceedings? What are you talking about? Mark's voice was steady but sharp. You abandoned our daughter at the airport. You left her alone. I'm filing for full custody. Barbara's eyes darted to me, wild and furious. You did this. How could you betray me, Emily? You're my sister. I swallowed, standing my ground. You abandoned your 5-year-old in a crowded airport, Barbara. 30 minutes alone. She was terrified. That's not motherhood. That's recklessness. Barbara lunged forward, trying to shove past me, but Mrs. Patterson blocked her path. Ma'am, calm yourself. This behavior will be recorded for the court report. My niece peeked from behind the couch, clutching her doll, eyes wide with fear. Barbara noticed her and softened her tone instantly. Baby, Mommy's here now. Come on, we'll go home. Grandma and Grandpa are waiting for us. But my niece shrank back, hiding behind me. That rejection sliced Barbara deeper than any words. Her voice cracked, turning desperate. Emily, don't do this. You know what it feels like to lose a child you never had. Don't take mine away. You'll never forgive yourself. Her words stabbed straight into my oldest wound, the one that never healed. For a heartbeat, I faltered. But then I looked at my niece's trembling lip and remembered the fear in her voice at the airport. My hesitation vanished. You already left her, Barbara. I'm not taking anything. You gave her away. Barbara's fury snapped back. She screamed obscenities, called me bitter, jealous, a failure. She threw her purse at Mark, tried to strike me. Mrs. Patterson called for backup, and 2 officers escorted her out of my apartment, still shrieking promises of revenge. The next day, the calls from my parents began. My mother's voice, cold and commanding. Drop this lawsuit immediately. Barbara made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve to lose her daughter. Mom, I said, exhausted. She deliberately abandoned her in a public place. She drove drunk with her in the car. She spent child support money on herself, while her daughter wore clothes with holes. That's not a mistake. That's neglect. You don't understand. Family loyalty comes first. No, I snapped. Child safety comes first. My parents refused to see reason. My father accused me of jealousy, of trying to play mother to a child that wasn't mine. By the time I hung up, I realized they had chosen their side. It wasn't mine. The custody hearing was set for the following week. The courtroom buzzed with tension that morning, wood-paneled walls holding more secrets than any of us could bear. Barbara strutted in with our parents at her side, still trying to wear her defiance like armor. Mark sat beside his lawyer, jaw set. I sat behind him, hands trembling, but steadying whenever my niece's small hand slipped into mine. Barbara's lawyer tried to spin a story. She trusted her sister. It was just a miscommunication. She never intended harm. But then the evidence came. The airport footage played on a screen. Barbara, my parents, and my niece walking together. Then Barbara and my parents boarding the plane. My niece left standing alone. 28 minutes. Passengers staring at her. A woman kneeling to ask if she was lost. Finally me, rushing back, grabbing her into my arms. The courtroom was silent except for Barbara's voice. This is Emily's fault. She was supposed to get water. She's jealous I have a child and she doesn't. Even her lawyer winced. Then came the private investigator's videos. Barbara stumbling drunk, fumbling for keys, climbing into a car with her daughter in the back seat, receipts of frivolous spending, screenshots of messages to other men. The judge's face grew colder with every piece of evidence. Barbara's temper exploded. She shouted over the lawyer, cursed Mark, called me a traitor. At one point, she hurled her water bottle across the courtroom. The judge's gavel slammed down. Miss Barbara, control yourself or be held in contempt. Mark's lawyer ended with quiet conviction. This child deserves safety, stability, a parent who puts her first. That parent is Mr. Mark, not Ms. Barbara. The judge's ruling came swiftly, like thunder. Based on overwhelming evidence of child abandonment, neglect, and inappropriate behavior, I award full custody to the father. The mother will have no visitation until completion of court-mandated alcohol treatment and anger management. Court adjourned. The gavel fell. Barbara was escorted out screaming, my parents trailing after her, faces pale with fury. That afternoon, I received a letter from my parents. Short, sharp, devastating. We no longer consider you part of this family. You betrayed your sister. Don't contact us again. It hurt. How could it not? But when I looked at my niece sitting on the floor, coloring beside her father, humming to herself, the pain dulled. Because she was safe. She was happy. In the months that followed, Mark enrolled her in preschool. He came to my apartment for dinner twice a week. On weekends, we went to parks, the zoo, anywhere that made her laugh. She'd hold both our hands and say, I have Daddy and Aunt Emily. I'm lucky. Sometimes when she looked at me with those trusting eyes, I thought, maybe I lost a marriage. Maybe I lost my parents. But I gained something greater, a purpose. My ex-husband had once spat that I was worthless because I couldn't give him children. But now I understood. Motherhood isn't just biology. It's love. It's protection. It's choosing a child's needs over your own. By that definition, I had been more of a mother in those weeks than Barbara had been in 5 years. Months later, I heard Barbara finished alcohol treatment. Part of me was glad. Maybe someday she'd become the mother her daughter deserved. But until then, my niece had a father who adored her, and an aunt who would fight to the ends of the earth to keep her safe. Sometimes doing the right thing means losing people you thought you could never live without. My parents, my sister. The illusion of family unity. But I don't regret it. Because when I tuck my niece into bed, when she wraps her arms around my neck and whispers, I love you, Aunt Emily, I know I didn't lose. I saved. And that, more than blood, is what family really means.